All right. Good morning. How you all doing? Karibuni sana. Hope you're all well from whichever part of the world it is that you're joining us from. This beautiful 14th day of March 2025. So, for the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. It's not a one-man show, so we also do have the rest of the team here. So I will be your host today. I know you've been seeing Mitch this week. He's on a break today. So still feel free to ask your questions. I mean, if you do have any, feel free to ask them on the chat box. The team will be getting back to you, but I will also be looking at them, but towards the very tail end of this webinar. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list, which is where we always start. So you can't see the watch list right there. So this 14th day of March, just one change in comparison to what we did have yesterday. You can't see that the US dollar has jumped to the buy side of things. So we only do have the Canadian dollar, the Swiss franc, and the Japanese yen on the sell side, and of course the indices as well. So we'll start off by looking at the currency pairs that we did have yesterday that unfortunately did fall off our watch list today. And of course, those are the USD pairs. So we'll start off with the euro against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas, or more or less four, that Mitch had pointed out and what we're expecting. In the morning price or somewhere here, we're expecting maybe the market to dip down, come back in, hold, and possibly get some sort of buying opportunity, or if the buyers did end up showing up. But unfortunately, the market came to the downside. It did seem like the big boys had initially showed up, but it's like they were just not interested. And you can see that the market broke to the downside, came back all the way down to within this region. And of course, went down within the area that the extra area that Mitch had pointed out. So this was during the New York Stock Exchange open. That's when price came back in within here. So I guess the buys on the USDs, most of them, I mean, when we do look at them, you will see that we're working out during the US session. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could also get some buying opportunities. So you can't see what the game plan was. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe to get price coming back to the upside of this region. Unfortunately, that couldn't happen. You can see that price came in a bit lower. It's like the big boys were really looking for some prices much lower. And you can see that price even broke beneath this region to the downside. And like we always say, once the market breaks beneath the red SNR and holds to the downside, then unfortunately there is no trade. But there was a massive probe within here, and you can see that price came back in, held within this particular region right here. Seems like the buys seem to be working out today. I mean, if you do have any buys on that one and you're hanging on, I mean, you just need to manage and see how much more further the market could potentially end up going. So moving on into the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could get buys. You can see the mess that was going on within this particular region here. And you can't see that in the morning price or somewhere here, expecting maybe to get the market probing, maybe a sign of the big boys showing up within this particular region before we get the buyers or the buying opportunities to push to the upside. Unfortunately, you can't see that didn't happen. Similar situation, I mean, with the rest of the USDs that we've seen. The market came down, tapped back within this region here, almost just came shy within this region that Mitch had pointed out. You can see that the buyers did push to the upside. So this was at around 430, similar situation. So guess that's when the big boys possibly did end up coming in on the USDs. So last but not least, for review, we do have the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, also trying to see whether we could get buys. You can't see the game plan, what was the game plan yesterday. So price was somewhere here, expecting price to push to the upside. That didn't happen. Price came in a bit lower and came in much lower, almost just came shy of this region right here, but similar situation with the rest of the USDs, 430. That's when the market did start to push to the upside. Bit of a tricky situation in terms of getting the buying opportunities on the USDs. They were not really the clearest, and the big boys did not quite seem very interested, especially during the London session. The pullbacks were coming in quite aggressively. Timing those buying opportunities was a bit of a challenge. But nonetheless, today's another day, and we will see if we can get some much more clearer opportunities. So jumping straight into a couple of screenshots that we did get. So we'll start off with this one from Bravin. So this is on silver. So Bravin, we know you do love trading silver. Good to see that you killed it on silver. I know silver is still going up. Good to see that you got some very good buy somewhere within this region. And I don't know if there are two buys or what could be the case. I think it's one. I think the other one is just part of the grid that's there on your chart. So you got to buy there, stop loss already within your point of entry, which is good. The market has really gone high up, but I think you can also end up tightening up your stop loss, because I don't think you'd be very happy if the market came all the way back down to within here, and it can't do that. At least if your stop loss is high up within these regions here, but still giving the market sufficient room to do its thing. But this is very, very good. So shout out to you for that, Bravin. And hopefully you're still hanging on to that trade, because I know that silver is still going to the upside, and the buyer still remains to the upside. So hopefully you could end up getting even way more gains on that particular trade. But shout out to you. So we also did get a screenshot from SC. So this is on the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So I can see you got a very good buy down within this area here, which was very good, exactly where the market was standing. A bit of a tricky situation in terms of how you got the buy, but of course, definitely, I think within a region where we do have some buyers, maybe when the market came back to the upside of this region, you hit the buy, and that buy did pay off, and I can see that your stop loss is way above your point of entry, which is good. But at least it could be somewhere within this region here, maybe even just somewhere within here. I know sometimes you're afraid of losses, and that does end up getting in the way of, sabotaging your trades, because if your stop loss is here, if the market just pulls back, even just to come back in within this region, just for some sort of a retest, unfortunately, your stop loss is going to get clipped. So sometimes, being afraid of taking losses, we can easily end up sabotaging, but it's always good, to give the market sufficient room to do its thing, because, as the market goes up, it has to do its ebb and flow, the higher highs and the higher lows. So at least giving the market sufficient room to do its thing is always a good thing. But shout out to you for that, SC. And of course, Bravin. Of course, guys, remember, if you do get any screenshots, whether good or bad, feel free to send them in to us. I mean, that's the reason why we're here. Make sure you do use us as some sort of a resource. We'll give you the much needed feedback that you need. Because we're happy when we see you guys improving in this game. So you can send in your screenshots via WhatsApp. Our contact details should be there in the video description. So shifting gears once again into matters today. So for the sake of guys who are joining us a bit late, this is what our watch list is going to be looking like today. So we'll start off with the Canadian dollar pairs, mix and match them up with the currency pairs on the buy side, move on to the Swiss franc pairs, then finish off with the yen pairs. On the fundamental front, there isn't really that much that's going to be happening per se, but ideally the economic calendar is also kind of packed, but you will see that it's only some GBP news events, some euro, bit of CAD later on, and USDs. That's pretty much it. But I guess, anyway, we'll still end up seeing some nice moves happening on the charts. So let's see what happens, but I don't really think there's going to be that much that's really going to be changing our biases. Most of the currency pairs have already established themselves, and also the indices and the commodities, but we will see what ends up happening. But I think the one that we could potentially end up taking note of are these CPIs for the euros. Potentially, we could get some volatility, because anytime there are CPI news events, we always do end up getting some volatility on the charts. So just make sure that you do watch out for that. But of course, if the markets do move in your favor and you get a good opportunity, make sure you maximize on it. At least you could finish the week on a high. So we're going to start off with the Canadian dollar pairs. So we're going to start off with the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out, and also what we're expecting. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting price to come back in within here, potentially see a sign of the big boys, showing up within this region for us to look for the buying opportunities. Unfortunately, that did not happen. Consider the market came in here, attempted to bounce to the upside, but the sellers pushed to the downside. And of course, like we always say, once the market breaks and holds beneath the red SNR to the downside, there's no trade. But much, much later on, consider price did actually come back into the upside of this particular region right here. So for this one, for today, let's see if we can get some buying opportunities. The levels are the same. The market has moved a lot, but it's not really moved far and beyond the areas that we had pointed out, or Mitch had pointed out. So we'll still be watching out for them. Consider the market is coming back in. And this is the reason why we always say that it's always important to wait for the pullback, because you can't see that the market went to the upside. Right now it's coming back in for some sort of a retest, within this area here. And of course, if the times or if the market aligns with where it is at the times. So, I mean, we're looking at 11 for the London big boys to come in. If the market is back within here, I think we could get these buyers potentially pushing to the upside, and we could get a good buy. Price could definitely come back in within this region, or maybe even higher, depending on how interested the big boys are, in buying this particular currency pair. So let's wait and see what happens, but definitely you will need to manage your trade within this particular region. There could be some spikes within this area here. I'm anticipating, because there are quite a number of levels down here that the big boys could potentially be interested in, and also trying to shake things about, maybe just trying to shake off some early buyers who are coming in potentially. So if you do get some sort of a probe still happening within here and the market holds to the upside, and you see that sign of the big boys, definitely you could jump in on those buying opportunities. So make sure that you watch out for that. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, these are the three areas that we had, which are more or less the same three areas that we have. And you can see some additional levels that Mitch had pointed out right there. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe price to just come back in, maybe tap within this area. There was some sort of an SNR within here that he had pointed out that potentially maybe we could get the market bouncing off there. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But when the market broke to the downside, you can see that it came back, tapped within that area to the downside before pushing to the downside. And you can see that much later on, that's when the buyers did actually end up pushing the market to the upside. So for this one, for today, also for this one, the levels are going to be the same. The market has not really gone far and beyond the areas that we were watching out for yesterday, despite having a lot of movement. So we'll just be waiting to see if we could get, some pullback coming in. In terms of looking for the buys, don't really look for the buys right now. Price is more or less coming back in within a seller's region. At least if we do get the market breaching above this area to the upside, get the market pulling back in, tapping within there, potentially you could get some conservative buying opportunities. But right now, the best thing is to also wait and give those sellers at the top there the benefit of doubt. There's a possibility price could just come back in within this area for some sort of a retest. And if that happens, I think some very, very good buys might actually end up happening off this area here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. The region at the bottom, you also could watch out for it. It's a bit of a long shot, but price can also find its way back there. If it does, then at least you should also be ready for that. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting either the market to pull back or breach above here to the upside, and kind of did both. So it first came down. And you can see that within this region, there was a fight. The big boys showed up. The sellers pushed down once again. And you can see the 430, which is during the New York Stock Exchange Open. That's when the market actually took off to the upside. When it broke to the upside, you can see that there was a slight pullback back within here, which is also exactly what he had illustrated within there. So it did both what we were anticipating yesterday. So the levels on this one are the same as well. So price has not really gone far and beyond the regions that we were watching out for. So let's see what happens. Right now, since price is coming back within here, I think there's a possibility price might just attempt to go a bit lower than this, maybe looking for, some prices maybe just slightly lower than this, especially considering the fact that maybe there's some guys who hit buys, putting their stop losses just beneath this wick right here. So there's a possibility price might just spike down. If it comes to the upside, I think potentially we could get some very good buying opportunities on this one. So watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the top. Also, you could watch out for this area right here. I mean, on your way up, you can see that the buyers came up, and somewhere within this region, they encountered some sellers who are giving them a bit of an issue. So on your way up, you just can't assume that the market is going to blast through that region. I mean, you should be surprised if the market blasts through that region, but at least you should be expecting maybe to get some issues. And you should at least be watching out to do some money management within that area, even if you could be targeting all the way high up within there. So watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the bottom. I mean, if the market comes back to the downside, the big boys need better prices, at least for as long as we're still holding above the red SNR, we're still good to go in terms of looking for buying opportunities. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, also a currency pair, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that had been pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. Unfortunately, the market broke to the downside, came back in all the way to within here. And you can see that within this area right here, the market came down, attempted to go to the downside. The bars showed up. If you look at the time, exactly 4:30, which was during the New York Stock Exchange. That's when the buy did actually take off to the upside. Definitely, if you got the buy down here, you did need to manage within there. And you can see that the market has continued to move up higher. So for this one, moving into today, and I think this is the trade or the currency pair that SE did get, and shout out to you for that again. I mean, if you're still hanging on, then definitely that's good. You can see that the market is still going up, but potentially you could find that somewhere within this region, the market can easily end up turning off. I mean, we're getting into a region where we do have sellers, so hopefully your money management has already been taken place, or rather you've done some money management to your trade. So we could find the market potentially coming back within this region. So it shouldn't be much of a surprise. So you could find that during the London session, we could get some sort of a pullback. And maybe during the US session, price could be back within this region, from around 4:30, and you could find some very good buying opportunities. But that's not cast on stone. Of course, the market can still continue moving up higher. I mean, if the sellers within this region are non-reactive and the market breaks to the upside, we get a nice pullback within here. Definitely, we could get the market reaching above here, and on the pullback, we could get the buying opportunity. So let's wait and see what happens. But of course, like for Esty, and I'm using her as a reference because I know that she's possibly still in on that trade. I mean, you don't want to hear that there's going to be a pullback coming in on your trade, but you also need to be realistic. Pullbacks will always happen, but at least if it doesn't happen, then that's good for you. So last but not least, for the Canadian dollar pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, this is a new entrant on our watch list. We're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So hopefully you can take note of those three areas right there. So we'll be trying to see whether we can get aggressive buys down here. Conservative, of course, at the top right here, and also a region where we can manage our trades. So right now we will be waiting to see if we can get price potentially coming back in within this area right here. And hopefully we do get some nice pullback that we can read. Price possibly taps back in within this area right here, and we do get a sign of the big boys showing up, then potentially we could get these buyers pushing the market up higher, and hopefully we could get price coming back in within this region here. So let's see if we could get that happening. So also watch out for the region at the bottom. I mean, if the sellers do push the market a bit deeper, and the big boys do need much better prices, then hopefully we'll try and see whether we could get our last buying opportunities down within this particular region right here. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the times, like we do keep on pointing out. And also remember the times have shifted for the US session. So it's 3 and 4:30, and of course the London session and the Frankfurt session still remain 10 and 11. There's no change on that. But later on, I think towards the end of this month, the times for the London session will also be shifting. So we're going to move on to the Swiss currency pairs. So we're going to start off with the euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas and also some illustrations of what we were expecting. There was also an additional level right there. So in the morning, price was somewhere here. We're expecting price to come back in and possibly hold within here for us to look for the buys. But you can see that the market really struggled within this particular region, came to the downside, tapped within here once again. The big boys did show up. This was during the New York Stock Exchange open. And you can see that the market just came in, tapped within this region that Mitch had pointed out. And unfortunately, these buyers just couldn't get past this area. And you can see that they were pushed all the way back down. So for this one, the levels are also the same. So we'll be watching out for the same three areas that we did have. So the game plan is more or less the same, and hopefully you can end up taking note of that. So right now, in terms of where the market is, in terms of looking for the buying opportunities, might not really be the best idea. Let's wait and see. If we can at least get price holding above here, then at least you could attempt to get some buying opportunities. You could target high up there, but just make sure that you also still watch out for this region. Still potentially could be an area that could give you issues. You can see that the buyers came in yesterday, they were given issues there. So in case that ends up being the case, then at least you should be ready for that. But there's also a possibility price might come in a bit lower, considering the fact that if you look at how the buyers are really pushing up, especially after the sellers came down. You can see that this is the same region that the buyers had pushed up quite aggressively yesterday. And if you look at what they're doing right now, this is pure mediocrity, for lack of a better term. So you could potentially find that maybe the sellers might actually push the market down lower, maybe off this region right here. That's where the buyers could potentially really come in. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But remember that the red SNR, in case the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, unfortunately, there will be no buying opportunity for us unless price comes back to the upside of that red SNR. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're also watching out for buying opportunities. You can see that also this one was in some sort of a mess, just like the other one. So price was somewhere here. We're expecting price to possibly break and hold above here to the upside. You can see that the market just broke, sat here for a bit, and then after that came back to the downside. But we're also expecting price to come back in within this particular region, which unfortunately it did not. But it seems that there was some sort of an SNR within this area right here that the market attempted to take off from. And you can see that even today, during the Asian session, the market is actually pushing off this region right here. And it's just somehow attempted to actually break above that region there. But remember, after the breach, you always do need to see the hold. The breach right now looks a bit weak. It's not very convincing. I mean, if the buyers came up this aggressive yesterday, and the sellers were able to push them back down, what could potentially end up happening with them coming in like this? Because they've not really come in that aggressive this time around. So for this one, let's see what happens. I think it might be best to actually first wait and see. We can first get the price coming back up within here. We need to see the reaction of the sellers within this region here. Because if you do hit the buys right now, I mean, some of you are cowboys and you do have a stomach for losses. You could jump in on the buys, but it's better to wait because you could easily end up getting caught up in a range within this particular area here. You could get taken, for some sort of an emotional roller coaster. So it's better to wait. Either if the market does at least break above this region to the upside, I think at that point in time we'll be out of the woods. So I mean, even if you do get the buys here and the market comes up and it just can't come in with enough momentum to break, above that region to the upside, you're better off managing your trade. At least if the market breaks above this region to the upside and actually holds above you on the retest, I think the buy within here will give you lesser issues than this one here. But at the end of the day, the choice is yours. I mean, you're in control of your money. The best we can do is give you advice. So watch out for that. But also remember that price can also come back in, not all the way necessarily down to within here, but there's also some sort of a region within this area here. And I mean, if you get the buys as low as you can, then the better for you in terms of risk to reward and everything. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But I think also down within here, we just get the market just coming back in within here, potentially could get some buying opportunities within there as well. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the red SNR at the bottom. I mean, that's going to be the last area we will be attempting our buying opportunities. If the market finds its way back within that region, then at least you also should be ready for that as well. So the next one, this is a Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas right here that Mitch had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere here. We're expecting price to come back in within this region. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The market just held within here, attempted to break to the upside. And you can see that there was a crazy mess that has been going on within this particular region. So this one wasn't the clearest of opportunities, but at least we have adjusted the areas accordingly based on what the story of price is telling us. So right now, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. In terms of looking for the buying opportunities right now, it's not really the best of ideas. At least if we do clear this region to the upside, we get a nice pullback coming in and we still do get a hold to the upside of that region, then at least we could try and see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So watch out for that, but also give the sellers within here the benefit of doubt. You could easily find that they could react. We could find price coming back in, within this particular region here. And at least you could find that maybe during the US session, if we're on the pullback during the London session, then hopefully during the US session, we could get some very good buying opportunities. Just make sure that you're ready for that as well. So that's pretty much it in terms of the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So we're going to move on to the next Swiss franc pair, which is the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday, We're also trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. I think by now, just looking at the rest of the CHF pairs that we've looked at, you can't see that there were, I mean, quite messy, but also there's some correlation that's happening amongst the Swiss franc pairs, because you can't see these moves that happened, price turning, coming back to the downside, and then right now all of them are kind of going to the upside. So maybe when the big boys do come in, they will possibly come in on all of them together. So for this one, the levels are more or less the same as what we're watching out for yesterday. The buys were not very clear. Can't see that the market was just fooling around within this particular region here, holding to the downside, then took off at around 4:30, came back down, unfortunately couldn't hold, came back all the way down to within this bar region again. And you can see that the buyers are having another go at it. So for this one, let's at least see. We could get price coming back within here because it looks like the breach has happened. We just need price to come back within this area here. I think some very good buying opportunities could be somewhere within this particular region. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the top. Also watch out for this area. I mean, we always point out the major levels that are there, but there are also quite a number of minor SNRs that could potentially give you issues. So don't take a trade and just sit and wait for price to get there. Easily could end up turning off here. So that's the reason why you need to have alerts so that, if the market hits particular problem areas, then at least you should be able to actually do some sort of money management, tighten up your stop loss, because, the Forex market is very unpredictable. Things can easily be going up or going well 1 second or 1 minute, the next everything just turns around completely. So you always need to make sure that you're ready for that. So last but not least, for the CHF pairs, this is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. We will be watching out for buying opportunities. So these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of them. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative, somewhere within here. You can see that this one is also in some sort of a range, although we do have the major level there, but there's also some sort of a region here that I can't point out. So if we were to look at it like that, you can see that we're in some sort of a range. Sellers are always reacting off the top. So if we could potentially get the market just coming back, because taking market structure into consideration when you're looking for entries and exits is very, very important. At least we could potentially get some very good buying opportunities down within here, which is more or less the bottom of the range. That's where the buyers are. And at least if we do get the market coming up, even if we will be targeting here and all we could get is still somewhere within this region right here, that's still fine. Just need to do some money management. If the market breaks and holds above here, for those of you that are real snipers on the charts, at that point in time, you could attempt to get some buying opportunities, but you also need to make sure that the risk to reward is also worth it. So we're only looking at 15 pips coming up. Maybe if you could get a stop loss of maybe, at least 7, 8 pips, just get something like a 1:2 or just something close to that, the better. If not, it's perfectly fine. If the market breaks above this region to the upside and you can't quite get that trade, then at least you could get the conservative entry higher up within this particular region here. So watch out for that. Watch out for the region at the bottom. Of course, in the case the market finds its way back down, then at least you should also be ready for that region as well. So that's pretty much it for the CHF pairs. So we're going to move on to the yen pairs, and we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we're going to start off with the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're watching out for buying opportunities, and you can see the 3 areas that Mitch had pointed out, and also a game plan of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. You can see that during the London session at 11, price actually took off to the upside. And unfortunately, when the market came back in within here, it's like the sellers or these sellers who had come down, it's like they were not fully yet done. And you can see that they came down, pushed the market quite aggressively. I was actually expecting maybe at around 4:30 to actually get the price lifting to the upside, but the buyers really struggled. The market came in a bit low, and then after that, you can see that today during the Asian session, that's when the market has actually started to make a move to the upside. Sure, maybe quite a lot of people worldwide were definitely stopped out by this. Those are things that happen on the charts from time to time. So, if you get stopped out by such kind of things, don't be too hard on yourself. And it's not anything to do with the brokers. I know that sometimes people tend to end up blaming brokers, just because the market just stopped you out, or every time you take a trade, the market always seems to go to where your stop loss is and then make a move. It's just the market. The big boys always have an idea of where many people do have their stop losses. So it's not like soko inakuonea. It's just the way, the financial market works. But of course, as you become better and better in trading, you'll definitely learn how to maneuver your way around such kind of things. So for this one, the levels are the same. So do watch out for these three areas. Right now, the market is making a move to the upside. In terms of looking for buying opportunities, don't look for buys now. In as much as a lot of people are, watching out for that move that's happening right now. And I know that many people are confirmation traders. So right now, since the market is moving up, that's okay, but we're back within some sort of an SNR within here. And you can see that the sellers reacted off there yesterday. The market is back within here. You could easily find the sellers reacting. So you don't really want to take that risk by taking that trade there. So either wait and see if you could get the market breaking above this region to the upside. And it's okay, let the big boys do the heavy lifting. If they do breach above this area to the upside, at least if you do look for a buy to go up, even if you're going to be targeting high up within there, just need to manage your trade, somewhere within this region, because you can see that also another big set of sellers, also sitting somewhere within here. The sellers who actually started this move to push to the downside. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And of course, in case the market breaks above this region to the upside, make sure that you also could potentially get some semi-aggressive conservative entries within there. So watch out for those three or more or less 4 areas. And of course, remember to watch out for correlation. The yen pairs tend to move together rather most of the time. So you will see that even as we continue going down the list. So you can't see like even for this one, it's going up just like we've seen on the euro against the Japanese yen. But even before we get into today, look at what happened yesterday. So this was the game plan. We're expecting price to come back in within here, after the sellers came down aggressively. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The price came in a bit lower and actually just tapped, within this region right here before the buyers did actually start to push to the upside. So for this one, don't really chase the buys. I know that there are very many people worldwide who are chasing the buys right now. Many people missed out on the buys when the market was down, within this particular regions right here. Right now, very many people are jumping in on buys, but they could end up, and there's a high probability they will go head on with these sellers who are sitting within here. So it's either the buyers maintain that momentum, and I really wouldn't advise you to be part of attempting to break this level to the upside. Let the big boys do the heavy lifting. Just wait for the pullback to come back in within here for you to get the buys. So let's wait and see if we could get that. If not, at least if we could get those sellers reacting, and there's a possibility price could come back in within this region, I think we could get some very good buying opportunities within here. So you could find that during the London session, we could be on the pullback, and during the US session, price could be back within here. So make sure that you do watch out for that. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could get buys. So you can't see what the game plan was. And in the morning, price was here. We're expecting price to break above here and hold. Fortunately, price just couldn't hold. You can see there was a real fight going on within here. Price attempted to even come in a bit low. Unfortunately, just couldn't get back all the way to within here. But just like we've seen with the rest of the yen pairs, you can't see those moves pushing to the upside. So that tells you that correlation is in play, with the yen pairs. So also for this one, don't really look for the buys high up there. When price is all the way high up within here, we're, getting into a region where we do have some sellers. So it's either the price to break to the upside, come back in within there, and we could keep up with the buys. If that doesn't happen, at least let's wait and see if we could get the pullback coming in, because there's a possibility price could just come back in within this region. And of course, if we do see the pullback on one of them, the yen pairs rather, just make sure that you have a look at the others, because most probably they will pull back together, and when they start to move, they potentially will end up starting to move together. If you factor in your risk properly, you could end up getting a handful of trades, but also don't end up taking all the yens, because in case, it's a good scenario if things work out in your favor, then you could get a lot of money or a lot of gain if you take a handful of them. But also remember that things can go wrong. So you can imagine if you're in on 5 yen currency pairs and all of them go against you, then that means that you're not going to be having a very good day today. So just make sure that you also watch out for your risk. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So you can't see what the game plan was, as had been laid out by Mitch right there. So we're expecting price to come back in within here, possibly end up getting some buys. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The market broke and actually held to the downside of this region, pushed itself lower. Can't see that the market just came, just tapped within this region right here, although this was much, much later on. And from there, that's when the buys or the big boys did actually end up showing up. So for this one, similar situation with the rest, say that the market to break above, come back in within here, for us to look for the buys. If that doesn't happen, I wouldn't advise you to really look for the buys just yet. Price can still come back in within this region. There's nothing that's impossible when it comes to the FX market. You could find price coming back in within here, and you could find that during the US session from around 3-4-30, price could be back within here for a very good buying opportunity. So just make sure that you watch out for that, but also watch out for the region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, especially considering the fact that the yens are showing a lot of weakness. So maybe price might not get back there, but if it does somehow, then just make sure that you're also ready for it. So last but not least, for the yen pairs and for the currency pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. We will be trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas that we're going to be watching out for. Let's just hope and keep our fingers crossed that we just could get some pullback coming back in within this region here. And I think if that does end up being the case, at least we could get some buys. When the market is higher up, going up within here, we could potentially get some buying opportunities, but I think you'll possibly have to go down to a smaller time frame to really read the story of what's going on. But I would best advise to possibly end up waiting to see if we could get price coming back within here. And you could find that the market could give a very good buy coming back up till within this particular region here. So you'll definitely need to watch out for that. Of course, if we do break above this region to the upside, you could target areas higher, but just making sure that you also do watch out for your money management. So watch out for this region as well at the bottom. But like I pointed out, it's a bit of a long shot, but in case price finds its way there, then at least we should be ready for that as well. So that's pretty much it for all the currency pairs. So hopefully you have taken note of everything we've discussed on that front. So we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities. There isn't much of a change on that front. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So for this one, yesterday and today, the bus is to look for selling opportunities. So you can't see what the game plan was. In the morning, price was here, expecting some sort of a pullback to come in, maybe a reaction of this region here. And you can't see that the market reacted off there, tapped within this region. You can't see that during the US session, that's when the market did actually end up giving a selling opportunity to come to the downside. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same. Price has not really moved far and beyond the regions that Mitch had pointed out yesterday. So these are the same 3 or more or less 4 areas that we're going to be watching out for. Remember, for the indices and the commodities, we're fully technical. For as long as we're holding below the red SNR, we should be looking for sales. If we breach to the upside of this area and hold above it, we can start to look for buying opportunities confidently, which means that if you're going to be looking for buys when we're in a seller's market, like we are right now, just be well aware at the back of your mind that the selling or the buying opportunities rather that you're going to be taking are counters. They might not go very far. The sellers can come at you at any given point in time without any warning. So that's the reason why it's always best to know who's in control. So right now, the sellers are in control. You can't see that the market has bounced off this region. The buyers are coming in. Let's say we get a reaction off here. I'll still keep this level here because you still could find some selling opportunities still happening off this area here, depending on what happens. So if that ends up being the case and the market really struggles within here, maybe attempts to go to the upside, and maybe during the London session, we could get the market coming to the downside. If hopefully the market breaks beneath this region, then I think maybe we could continue to push much, much lower. But also remember that there's also this level right here. And of course, the major levels, these two right here. This one is just a minor level, but can potentially end up coming into play, especially considering the fact that the market broke to the downside. This could be the pullback and the retest of this region right here. And I mean, if there could be some very good sales that could happen off there, you definitely want to be taking advantage of those. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Also watch out for the timings, like we keep on pointing out. So 10, 11, and of course 3 and 4:30. So the next one, this is the US 30 or the Dow Jones. So for this one, yesterday. We're trying to see whether you could get some sells as well. So you can't see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. So we're expecting maybe to get a pullback. That didn't happen all the way till within there. Maybe a breach and a hold to the downside for us to look for the selling opportunities. So you can't see that the market just pulled around within this area and then eventually took off to the downside. This one wasn't the clearest, unless maybe you're looking at it on a smaller time frame. It wasn't really the clearest of them because the market was really fooling around within this region, sometimes to the upside, but you can't see that there was a slight probe to the upside, came back in, the market was holding, and then after that, you can't see that the market started to come to the downside. So for this one, for today, let's see if we'll get some good selling opportunities, but you can't see that the big boys were definitely interested during the US session yesterday, and you can see that the market really came down from around 430. Price really came down like a pile of bricks. So for this one, let's see what happens. We have some pullback coming in during the Asian session. Right now, the market is back up within some sort of support and resistance area. Maybe this could be the retest, of this area. And I'm thinking if the big boys or if the buyers within this area are not able to push the market to the upside, these sellers who push the market down will be attempting to break their previous record, which is currently down within this particular region here. So I think there could be a very good sell, that could be coming up on this one. The buyers have been coming up nice and easy, nice and slow, which is good. Remember, we don't want to see aggressive buyers coming at us because, we're the sellers. So at least this is good. We just need to see a bit more of what happens within this area. If the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, then that means that there's a possibility we could get price coming back in within this region, and maybe the market might just come back in within here, and you could find that maybe the big sell could happen off this area much later on during the US session. So just make sure that you also watch out for that, but also remembering that in case the market breaks and holds above that red SNR to the upside, then at that point in time, we're no longer going to be looking for sales. We're going to be, shifting gears, and we're going to be looking for buying opportunities. So moving on into the next one, this is silver. So for silver, yesterday and today, the bus is to look for buying opportunities. So even before we get into today, so you can't see what the game plan was yesterday. So price was here. These were the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. Wanted to see the price come back in within this region, attempt to come down, maybe hold within here for, for us to look for some buying opportunities. So you can't see that the market during the London session, there was a buy that the market had started to move, but it's like the buyers ran out of steam. The market came down, and during the US session, you can't see that that's when the buyers really took off to the upside, like the space shuttle. So let's see what happens on this one. And of course, shout out to Bravin, for that silver trade that you got. And if you're hanging on to it, then that's some very good work right there. So for this one, let's see what happens. These are the three areas we will be watching out for. They are a bit wider than what we'd normally have, but ideally it's also based on the story of what the price is telling us. So you can't see there's this major push to the upside. Right now, the market has found some sort of a resistance area within this area here. So definitely there's an SNR within there. There could be a minus SNR within here, which means that, if we get some sort of a pullback coming in, it's not a guarantee that price has to come back in all the way till within this region here. But it is a major SNR. When you look at the story of price on a bigger time frame, you will see that this is a region of interest. But it also looks like the buyers are really squeezing the sellers within here. For the guys who normally follow chart patterns, I don't know what you call this. Is it an ascending symmetrical whatever triangle or something like that? Can't quite remember chart patterns. It's been years. But ideally, it looks like the buyers are really squeezing the sellers here. So there's a possibility we could get the market breaking to the upside. And ideally, that's what you should be waiting for. If you get the market breaking to the upside, market comes back in within here for some sort of a retest, some sort of a pullback, then potentially you could ideally end up looking for a buying opportunity somewhere within here to potentially move to the upside. But the buyers have really stepped up, within this region quite aggressively. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom. At least for as long as we're holding above that red SNR, we should be looking for buying opportunities. Also, the market can't find its way all the way down there. If it does, you should also be ready for that as well. So last but not least, we do have gold. Now for gold, yesterday and today, the bus is also still to look for buying opportunities. So you can't see the three areas right there that Mitch had pointed out. and also an illustration of what to expect. Unfortunately, the pullback just couldn't come in all the way till within this region here. And I guess the buyers had really stepped up within this region quite aggressively. The sellers really struggled. You can see that they struggled to calm down. It's like the market just tapped within here and the buyers showed up. And of course, you can see that the market just held within here before the market really took off to the upside. Right now, gold is at the highest it's ever been. So it's history in the making. Potentially, we could see the market maybe hit 3,000 very, very soon. So, but of course, in as much as we're going to be watching out for buys, it's always best to wait and see if we could get some sort of pullbacks coming in. This SNR right here is an SNR that the market has found. It's not something that is visible on the bigger time frame because, I mean, the market has never really been here before, like ever. So, I mean, of plotting the levels as we continue moving up higher and higher. So just based on the 15-minute time frame, the fact that the buyers ran out of steam somewhere within here, we're thinking that there could be an SNR within there. There's some sort of a region here that potentially we could get the market coming back until, if at least the market just gives us some sort of a pullback that we can't read, I think we could get some buying opportunities. And of course, if we do get the buys here, you just need to manage within that region. And at least even if you will be targeting areas higher, just make sure that you really watch out for this region. Alternatively, if the market at least breaks and holds, above this region to the upside, then at least at that point in time, if we do get a pullback, we can read. And a pullback is always very important. And I know that we keep repeating, the fact that you always need to wait for a pullback. It's always very important, especially for gold right now where it is. If you hit buys without waiting for the pullback, you might not be too sure of where you might be heading. And, the market can easily turn on you. But at least with the pullback, if you get the buy here, for sure, you know that there's definitely a level within here which you can definitely end up targeting, doing some sort of money management. If the market continues to go up higher, then well and good. So watch out for that. In terms of buys, don't look for buys here. I wouldn't advise you to do that. Wait for the pullback. It's like when you're at the airport and you want to go to Maldives and you board the wrong flight, only to find yourself in Afghanistan and you're wondering how the hell you ended up there. So just make sure that you do wait. And like we always say, buy with buyers, sell with sellers. It's always the best and easiest way to end up trading, and at least gives you some sort of probability or guarantee that your trades will possibly end up working out. So that's pretty much it in terms of everything. So hopefully you've taken note of that. So let's see if there are any questions on the chat box, which I'm not seeing any, which is perfectly fine. I guess everything is clear. In case it's not, then definitely feel free to rewatch this. At least we've given you that provision. You can rewatch on our YouTube channel. Also, remember to like and subscribe. That does end up helping out our channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so that you're notified anytime we do go live. If this information is helpful to you, also feel free to tell a friend, and also feel free to share. There's definitely more than enough for everyone. So I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of the Afriforex daily analysis this week. It's been a pleasure working with you guys. Hopefully we'll do this again next week. Remember, if you're struggling with your trading, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are definitely there in the video description, and we'll see how best we can end up helping you. Also feel free to visit www.afriforex.com for more insights and information. So with that, happy trading, guys, and bye for now. Have a lovely weekend. God bless.